sometimes finding the right list to mail to is the most important thing. And also making sure that you follow through on that action. In this episode, John was looking for some help in how to get started in finding leads. And so we were able to walk him through a few different options and lead lists that he could start working from.
This is the podcast for replacing your W-2 income with wholesaling real estate. My name's David. I created DealMachine. We've helped people close their first wholesale deal 10,000 times in all 50 states.
And my name is Ryan Haywood. I've done over 450 wholesale transactions and have a portfolio of 60 that I've built up through the Burr method.
Yeah, so I'm the guy that lost everything about 10 years ago. And thank God I'm a real estate broker, successful for a while. And thank God I have that to fall back on because I was flipping houses for a while and one deal went bad and that was too big of a deal. And so now I'm 60 years old, starting from scratch.
Well, thanks for sharing that, first of all. That was, you talking about in 2008?
Yeah.
Got it. All right. So since then, you've been a broker, and you said you have agents under you, right? So
right. I stopped being a broker for a while to concentrate more on flipping houses, and thank God I had to be able to go back to being a broker. I never stopped doing it, but I just wasn't doing it full time because I was concentrating more on flipping houses.
Got it.
And then, yeah, so now I went back for the last 7 years. I've been doing brokerage full time, and I have a pretty big name for myself in my community. So it was pretty easy to step back into it. And yeah, here I am. And now I want to get started back to flipping houses. And wouldn't it be nice to have more properties that I know what to do with if I have to wholesale them? Or obviously I have a gazillion investors that I could wholesale to, right? That's easy. So I don't have that problem.
Okay. And so are you looking to get into wholesaling rather than flipping because you feel like it's less risky than doing big projects,
No, I
big
can do
flip
both,
projects?
because I have money behind me. I have a little bit of my own money, not a lot. I basically have some old lenders still calling me up saying, we don't care about your bankruptcy and everything. We believe in you. Whatever you want, whatever you need. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, great, thanks.
What market are you in?
Supposedly a very tough market. New York, Long Island.
Long Island, okay.
If you got back into flipping today, what would you do differently than you did before?
I would be more careful on what I buy. I wouldn't look for such slim profits. You know, I think it should start off with like a $80,000 profit, and if it hits the fan, then it turns to a $20,000 profit, or you break even.
Yeah.
If that's the ugliest it gets, then that's okay.
With an $80,000 profit, what's the ARV of a house like that?
That would be about, in my market, it's going to be an expensive house. It's going to be probably about $650,000.
Got it. So basically, and I like what you're saying here is if it's a big fat profit, then you'll flip it. But if it's not, you'd just rather wholesale it, move the property, move it on.
You know, I have guys calling me every week to work because I was doing it for so long. I flipped about 100 houses over a 20-year time frame. Like 4 a year, something like that. About 4 houses a year.
Are you open to wholesaling?
Yeah.
As well?
Why not? I mean, I have plenty of guys. I mean, I sell for these guys too. These, flippers.
Well, when you say guys,
flippers.
What do you mean, the buyers? Like they'd buy it from you?
Flippers. I have probably a dozen flippers that I could sell stuff to. If I had 12 houses to wholesale to, I could wholesale 12 by 1 o'clock today.
Wow. Have you started looking for...
That's how competitive my market is. That's kind of a bad thing.
So have you started looking for properties that are off-market deals? Or are you just wanting to start and wanting to get started in the right way?
So I wear 2 hats, right? When I walk in the door of an appointment, I'm a realtor and an investor. I'm an investor first because everybody wants to call the investor first, right? If the house is worth $500,000, they walk in and they're hoping that I'm going to buy it for $450 as an investor. That's why they called me. Because if I tell them I'm a realtor / investor, they still won't let me in the door because they won't believe me. New Yorkers are very skeptical.
Yeah.
Where
They'll think you're trying to pull a fast one, right? Trying to get that listing, and they don't. Yeah, okay, I got you.
exactly. So I go in as an investor. Like, to give you an example, I'm talking fast because I don't know how much time we have together. So I subscribe to HomeLight. Okay, HomeLight they do a lot of marketing for people, for investors, realtors, and they do it in exchange for 25% referral fee. So they were sending me appointments to go on because I was set up as an investor. But on Long Island, 9 out of 10, almost 10 out of 10 appointments, they want to get $450 for their house from the investor, but the house is worth $500. So what do? I'm like, no problem. I'm a top broker in the area. You can Google me quickly right now if you'd like, or you may have heard of my name and my company name. And they're like, oh yeah, we've seen you around. We've seen your picture. You're with your wife, yada, yada, yada. Yeah. Well, I have the papers in the car. I can list your house right now. I can get you more than 500. I could probably get you 525,000 for the house. Oh, that'd be great. Where do we sign? Let's get started. So I'm either walking out of that house, either buying it or taking a commission. So I'm either making $10,000 or I'm making $80,000.
Right.
So that was HomeLight. So that was great. So I went on those appointments, and then HomeLight cut me off at the knees because I wasn't buying anything. Because I'm like, well, you're making 25%. What's the big deal? But they're like, no, we'll keep you on, but as a realtor, not as an investor.
They only made 25% when you bought something.
No, 25% every time I listed something.
Okay.
That's still at the end of the year was probably averaging like $100,000.
Okay.
To them.
So now you want to do your own marketing to replace that deal flow that they were bringing you. Got it. And you said in your own words, you wanted a blueprint for doing that in a way that scales so that you could quickly get up to speed there. And so Ryan, I think, is a great example to maybe describe what he's been able to do, because you guys are doing around 70 deals a year, mostly wholesaling, right, Ryan?
Yes.
Now, it's a different market.
It's a completely different market. But what I want to know is, do you have an idea of what they were sending marketing for? Like, do you know what kind of houses or what areas they were sending marketing out to get those leads?
No, I've never seen any HomeLight's marketing. Once in a while, I'd see it on TV, once in a blue moon.
So that would be, to me, because I know the New York area is very different than the Midwest. So
that's right. All these companies that I've hired in the past that are supposedly legitimate companies, I'm like, look, guys, here's the goal. I tell all the marketing people, the goal is to make you indispensable. That's the goal. So start me off with whatever you could do without taking thousands of dollars of my money up front. And just get to the point where I'm like, you guys you're priceless. I can't live without you. Right? That's the goal. That's the goal, right?
Is there in your area, and just if I say an ignorant question, just ignore it because I'm from the Midwest.
No,
but
right.
Is there areas that you prefer as an investor? If you could find flips in these specific neighborhoods, are there areas around you that you could maybe target in a small scale first before you start? Because what I'm curious about is, given the New York market and the Rhode Island market, it's going to be huge. There's got to be a lot of people spending a lot of money to get those deals as well. So the competition is going to be pretty steep.
There is. I sell all their houses, these guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if there's a few neighborhoods that we could kind of start, like, I don't know if driving for dollars is necessarily the right way to do it, but you want to find a neighborhood that has enough houses that need to be flipped or that could be flipped, and then start the direct mail campaign there. It's hard for me. It's hard to understand, where would you even begin and what neighborhood would you even begin?
I don't need you to help me with demographics. That I don't need you for.
Yeah,
that. I don't need demographics. I got the demographics. It's my area. It's my territory, right?
Yeah, you know it, but way better.
You know your areas. You guys know yours, and I know my areas. So that's easy. I'm just talking about, I might be overthinking things. Maybe I need to just start doing mailings. Every video that I listen to with David, it's all about tax delinquent. You talk like tax delinquencies are the end all be all. Every video I listen to. Is it that simple? Should I just be hitting all the tax delinquents on Long Island? I don't know.
I mean, you got to start somewhere, and
Of course, right.
man, either it's distressed properties. There's got to be a flag that's going to give you a pool of properties. So maybe it's tax delinquent. Maybe there's enough tax delinquent in a specific area, or maybe there's a ton of distressed properties in a specific area, or maybe there's a ton of elderly owned vacant structures in a specific. You have to have a specific thing that you are going to mail to. You can't just dump a bunch of mail because that's just going to be a waste of your money. So if you look for, and that's where I don't know what would be a good pool.
Are there any popular, let me ask you this. Are there any popular lists that you guys like that work well across the country?
Yeah, vacant absentee owner. That is the list. Everyone that starts marketing always starts vacant absentee owner. It'll give you a lot, but you have to understand too, when you're doing that, it's a popular list, which means everyone is doing that as well.
I don't think it's going to be that popular. Dave, you want to punch it in now, my area, and see what comes up?
I bet it is.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be as high as you think.
What's a zip code?
1-1. I'm excited to get started with my girls that work for me to do the expired listings on the real estate end with DealMachine. I'm hoping the data is better than Vulcan 7, Red X, Land Voice, all that stuff. We're going to start that, I think, tomorrow. I have to buy the dialer. I'll do that later.
There is, when you pull up vacant and absentee owner, in that specific zip code, it comes up with 43 properties.
There you go.
Well, it's not a big enough list, though.
But I'm saying that that's not as much as you thought.
Yeah, there's not very
You
many.
were expecting it to be like 2,500.
Well, no, when I'm saying it's a popular list, I'm saying it's not popular in the sense of how many there are going to be on there. It's popular that everybody's probably sent mail to these 43 properties.
Oh, okay.
You're competing with a bunch of people that are probably working these leads too. So there's probably a few different.
I understand the premise of you guys. I understand driving for dollars. I get that or we have to get more granular with the list, right? Don't grab the popular lists.
Right? So here's one. Lists, here's a list that I use in where I'm from. So this is absentee owner high equity. What we see a lot is that they're landlords. They own the houses or they have a ton of equity in the houses, but they don't want to do it anymore. And so that list in 11731 pulled 1,204 properties, which to me,
absentee.
It's absentee owner high equity.
That means they're rental properties?
Most likely they're rental properties.
Right.
But yeah, that turned up a lot that's 1,204 versus 43. Now you could do both lists. I mean, you need a.
Well, that's it. It's like it's pretty wild. I mean, DealMachine is driving me crazy because it's like you're getting this treasure map, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God, am I going to be that guy who's 60 years old now and I'll be 90 years old with this treasure maps looking for this treasure? It's like,
yeah,
it's pretty wild. So it's like, you don't want to be so broad. You want to bring it back. It's crazy.
That's probably where, if I were going to start in that area, I'd probably start on that just because of the number of leads that list pulls versus the absentee owner vacant list. You could pull them both, and that gives you about 1,250 records to start sending direct mail to.
What about these people that have no intentions of selling?
Yeah.
Like, what about the people that are wealthy,
Mm-hmm.
in their 80s?
Yep.
Uh,
That's a nut you're never going to crack. Period. I mean, most of those are going to be passing. That's generational wealth that they've been working on since they started, and probably something that
but those
came.
houses go on the market.
Do they?
Eventually, they do go
Well, they
on the
die.
market.
Yeah, they're going to die at some point.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Well, that could be what you're. That could be. I mean,
Well, like we get that around here. We get that, like the estate sales, right? There's realtors that they get these estate listings all the time, whether they're connected with estate attorneys that give them these listings. How could I reach
all right.
those
I just
households before?
I just switched it up a little bit more, and I added. So now the filters that we're working on now: absentee owner, high equity, and senior owner. So now that narrowed the list down to 458. So if you wanted to look for those people who are quote unquote senior owner that don't live there and they have a ton of equity in the house, you could start sending direct mail to that list. And that's worked for us too. I mean, a lot of times, again, you're at the tired landlord position of I'm
Right.
80 years old. I don't want to rent it again. I just want to sell it. So
to answer your question, if somebody says they don't want to sell, they'll continue to say that until they're ready to sell.
or until they die.
If they pass away. And
Right.
one of my deals that I did, I reached out 11 times, and the son picked up the postcard and called me, and he said, my last of my parents had passed away, and I need to settle debts on their estate within 30 days. So this house is really rough. So what can we do before 30 days is up to be able to get this transaction done, and I can close everything out. So that's how it played out with me. So, I think you might see a rundown house, and then they're not going to respond right away because they don't want to sell until they do. And
Right.
then you want to be, continuing to send them a postcard, because when they decide to sell, whatever's in their mailbox that day is going to be who they call.
Yep.
Right. I get it. Garbage, 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 garbage. Oh, you know what?
Right.
I get that, because it's the same thing with being a realtor. I get that. Right. That doesn't matter to them until it's time. So now when they get, but how often, like the people that have no intentions, money's not an issue, no matter the condition of the house, good, bad, mostly good,
Yeah.
nice houses, how often can we mail them to the point where they don't get annoyed because you don't want to lose them?
Well, also it's costly to send mail. So if you're sending mail, I'm curious what Ryan does. I always do every 3 weeks.
But if
My
there's no
market-
intentions and there's no tax delinquency, there's no fire.
Oh, well, then I wouldn't mail them in the first place, because the only reason I would mail them is because if they were on one of these lists that kind of shows maybe there's some intention of, because they're tax delinquent or the house doesn't look good, or, something like that.
Okay, so if I do senior only,
I think
I
that
do
is
senior own when I do senior
good.
owners and high equity, I do that every 6 months. I send postcards to that list.
Exactly.
Every
That's
6
my
months.
point. Because anything
Okay.
more than that, they're going to get annoyed.
Yeah.
They might call you up and say, "Leave me alone." Right. So that's my question. But the ones
You'll
that don't
still
have the
get that, but
intentions,
it's not
because
as
you don't
much.
want, that's another audience you don't want to ignore, right?
No, you
You don't
don't.
want to ignore, because like David said, the kid might get the card when they pass away or something, and they're like, "Let me call this guy."
Now that's happened for us. We sent a list. This was a couple of years ago, and we did it in a notorious elderly neighborhood, but it was a nice neighborhood, and a lot of people do flips there. So I pulled this list of senior owners. I just dropped a bunch of mail. A lady called me in December, and she was like, "I got your postcard. I don't live there anymore, but I do need to sell it." And then for some odd reason, she ghosted me. January came. I was like, man, that was a good lead. I'm going to call her back. And I called and I called and I called, and I never got a hold of her. Go into February, I get a call from her son. "Hey, my mom passed away, but your postcard was sitting on her desk and we were cleaning the house." And I ended up getting the deal like in that week. So it's good to send, if you have a market that has more senior ownership. To me, it's like, are you going to get them all? No, but you might get 2, you might get 3.
I'm not worried about having the golden ticket of a list.
Yeah.
That's not my intentions. I'm not looking for the golden magic bullet. I just want guidance. I don't want to be into this, $5,000 worth of mailings and I have nothing to show for it. That's my biggest fear, right? So I just want lists that you feel are popular. I don't care if there's only 3 on that particular list. One might have 3, one might have 133, another one might be 33,000. Who cares, right? I do what I can afford, obviously, but do I just stick with your quick lists? Should I be looking at firehouses?
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I would push you towards the idea of going senior owner, absentee, high equity. Like I said, you're looking at 400 to 1,200 leads to start with, and you can send mail and see what comes of it. Like, you're never going to know if you're going to be in deep and whether you're going to get a deal until you start sending mail. It'll literally going to be trial and error for you. There's not going to be any guarantee in any of this.
Right.
So I think that's where you're most likely to sell. The list of people that are most likely to sell, in my opinion, is going to be your senior owners that are absentee and that have high equity. I feel like that is going to be the best bet for you.
What do you think, David?
Yeah. So just you said, I always say tax delinquent, and it's because it's very common for people to see all these types of lists and then not take action because they are not sure which one is the perfect list. There's no perfect list. Somebody who constantly does this probably is trying different things and adding new lists all the time. So that all the lists work. We know that because we've had a million success stories on this podcast that we host.
Right.
And it's from Driving for Dollars, or it's from Tax Delinquent. I always say tax delinquent because I want to talk about things that I've had success with. So I've had success with the tax delinquent list in a big way. Made $125,000 from one deal in Indy, and he was an orthodontist in Utah that had tons of money, but he bought these 5 properties and got stuck with them because his contractor left, and for 5 years it just sat and rotted. So he actually sold it to me 5 years later for less than what he bought it, because he probably bought it too high in the first place. So I had a great deal, helped the guy out. He even also paid the taxes on the property just to get rid of this. And so that's why I always just say tax delinquent, because I honestly, I don't have the perfect answer. We are not in your market, but we know in general, you just want to pick lists that you have some form of motivation. And so I always just feel like tax delinquent, start with that. It's probably,
right.
Decent number. The other thing was, you said you don't want to have $5,000 invested in direct mail and have nothing to show for it. Now, the thing I've noticed is that the higher value properties, they take more money to spend on mail to get the deal. Which is kind of how it works. So in Ryan's market, they might spend $2,000 on mail to get a deal. I don't know how much you guys spend to get a deal, Ryan. What's your number there?
I get on average 4 to 5 deals a month, and I send 1,500 postcards. So my market's very different.
That's nothing.
Yeah, that's not going to happen, Joe. Not in New Jersey.
No, or it's not a good example.
This is New York, not New York, dude. So what I'm saying is, maybe we can ask our guy David Choi, who's in New Jersey, kind of similar area.
Yeah, tri-state area is New York, New Jersey,
right.
Connecticut.
So Boston, I know he does a lot of cold calls.
Washington,
I know he does a lot of cold calls. He might spend $5,000 to get a deal on mail. Probably, honestly, I bet he does. And so if you're just starting out, I would want you to give yourself some grace and be like, well, I'm not like, I've done a lot of wholesaling. I mean, you do have a lot of experience, so not undermining that, but like, give yourself like, hey, maybe I'll spend like $7,000-8,000 because I just might not be as good as I will be 6 months from now at this particular thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So just wanted to kind of give my mindset on starting up, and don't put the pressure on to be as good as somebody who's been in that market, but because it's a more expensive, competitive market, it may cost $5,000 in mail to get a deal. And the good thing is maybe you'll get a bigger profit typically, which also because wholesalers, maybe they make 15% of the property value, as like average assignment fee. So you get a bigger overall assignment fee in a bigger market too, because it's 15% of a higher dollar property. So that's how I've seen it play out. So I just want to explain that. So you don't end up.
HomeLight's been very, very good to me. I mean, HomeLight was awesome. It was a great run because I didn't buy anything, but I probably made, $250,000 in real estate commissions.
That's awesome.
So even if I just created that again, and I don't buy anything, who cares? That's the beauty of me. That lead isn't going in the garbage. I'm just as excited as if I'm buying it or not buying it.
So what other, I guess we're here, we got some more time if you have more questions. I know you said you wanted a blueprint. I know Ryan has 6 students that he actually coaches. So maybe you guys want to talk about that offline if you're interested in that, or maybe you think this is good enough to hit the ground and start trying stuff too.
I don't know if I need, I'm always open to coaching. I know I always come across as a know-it-all. It's my biggest nemesis. And I'm not. That's just the way I am. And
I don't think you did, honestly. I was just, you're right here asking questions.
I didn't pick that up.
yeah.
I'm just trying to let you know what we can do to help. And if you have more questions, we can do that as well.
Yeah, I just don't want to reinvent the wheel. I just want to, like I did, I went through, and also it pulls up the other town. When I did East Northport, it also pulls up Northport. I guess it does that automatically, which was kind of good. It's good. So I did that last night. And it's funny that you mentioned the landlords. So I went through those 150 leads that came up. I forget the list that I pulled. I'd have to jump on my account. But I noticed some of the people were just landlords, but they were tax delinquent. So to David's point, I guess I should still reach out to them. You just don't know. Like, I'm a big proponent of when I flip a house, I refuse to pay the taxes until I flip it.
Yeah.
I'll pay the fine, the penalty fee of $120 or whatever it is for not paying my taxes in 6 months' time. So it looks like I'm tax delinquent when I own that property.
Got it. Yeah. So you're saying maybe the tax delinquent property list isn't as good of a list because you're the one who ends up on that list, but you don't need to sell.
Right.
Yeah. Well, some people are in that for sure.
Yeah, I'm not poo-pooing it. I think it's still a good list. I'm just saying it was interesting what I saw because I went through everybody last night.
Yeah. What you could do is you could say tax delinquent and they've owned it for over 2 years. Then you could filter out people like yourself that are just flipping it and don't want to pay the taxes while they're holding it briefly.
This treasure hunt's going to kill me. Okay. Yeah. I know you've been through it, Ryan. I know you know what I'm talking about.
I mean, every time I talk to somebody, I go on a treasure hunt. So
I know it's crazy. So that's really it. So I just did my first list, and last night, 1:00 in the morning, and yeah. So I guess I really shouldn't read in. The moral of the story is don't read into it so much.
Well, you can read into it, but also make sure you're just taking action and not just thinking about it. You know what I mean? Or not kind of psyching yourself up.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, and if you wanted to have a faster test with the dialer, which I know you said you're going to try, you can call on 160 properties in that might have taken me 2 hours. And the dialer gets a 25% response rate for properties called on. So you could very quickly test out a list by just calling, and it's lower cost as well. So you'll get a lot of answers. And typically if I sit down in front of a live chat, well, I'm going to do a dialing challenge for starting next week, by the way.
Yeah, I think I signed up for it.
Yeah. If I'm ever trying to show off the dialer, I'm just like, hey guys, just let me make 10 calls. This is going to take 2 minutes until I get somebody on the phone. So that might be a way to calm your anxiety because it's not as much money as sending mail and it's faster feedback loop, So that might be a place to start if you're feeling like you're not sure if the investment in mail is worth it. to that
Right.
particular list.
Ryan, how do you feel about a good VA? A good VA that has good English.
I would do it. Absolutely.
I have a gal that's been working for me only for a couple of weeks now, and I indirectly threatened her job because we're not getting any results. It's been a month, and I said you need to call Vulcan 7 and say that these phone numbers aren't working, and you need to tell them the data sucks, whatever, however you want to word it. And she's
Maybe,
very concerned.
yeah. I don't know. I feel like sometimes VAs aren't as good as you think they are either.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I hear you. Yeah, nothing beats you doing it.
yeah, I mean, I know you're a busy guy, but if you can carve out a couple hours, at
Yeah.
least see what that's like before hiring somebody to do that for you, I would say.
Or we could do both. I'll do it. I could do the list and give her the list. Then do the same list and see what the results are.
Right.
That'd be something interesting.
Yeah, I always had better results when I personally cold called than anybody on my team cold calling. They're like, I don't get anything. And I'm like, well, I got 7 leads. I don't know. Like, how did you not get something?
Right.
So it's just because you know what to ask.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I figured that's what you would say. So I guess that's it, fellas. I mean, I don't know what else you can say to me or give me the shot in the arm or whatever.
Well, feel free to ask more questions. I know David and I will be more than happy to help anytime you want. I do have a Q&A session every Tuesday night that you're welcome to join. I can send you the link to that. There's nobody from New York in there, but it's just an hour of asking any question you have. So
that's like a DealMachine thing, or just
no, it's just
general questions.
Yeah, just general independent questions.
And I like that because it's good to be with the top people. Not that I'm a top guy yet, but I just have the experience of a top person. So I don't want to be like I sat through a bunch of the other Ryan's things, and those I'm not really getting anything out of it for the most part.
Well, that's tech support, really. That's if people need help using the app. Okay. And the question that you're asked, that's the office hours. The question you're asking is more about what data should I use and where, how much mail should I send? So.
Right. Well, okay. Yeah, whatever you think I should be, whatever you think is going to help me, any masterminds, sit-ins or whatever. I don't know. Maybe I know more than I realize, and just get started.
That's it. Action.
Well, I appreciate the call, guys. Whatever, I'm excited to see how this data is compared to, because I have had some trouble myself making the calls with Vulcan 7. And Vulcan 7 is like that's our top one that the realtors use.
Got it. So point of clarification as well, Joe. Realtors, they're not allowed to call the do not call list.
Yeah, I know.
But if you're an investor and you are presenting strictly as an investor, you can. So.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
Yeah, there's case law specifically that I could send you that we've analyzed where the investors making strict offers to purchase a house is totally okay because the DNC list prevents you from selling. And if you're a realtor, you're selling a service.
Right.
If you're selling roofs, you're selling a roof. But if you are an investor making an offer as you, the individual, then you're making an offer on their house.
Okay.
And the case law suggests that's allowed.
Great.
So, try that. Keep that in mind. And the AI in DealMachine will help keep your team safe because it flags me if somebody's making questionable calls to the do not call list. So then I'll reach out and be like, hey, did you know you can't do that? It's risky for you to do that or illegal for you to do that. So
because you said it's a realtor. That's a subscriber, you mean?
Well, the AI, it's an AI dialer. Yeah. So it doesn't matter if they're licensed or not, but if they're saying on the phone, hey, I'm a realtor and it's to the do not call list, I'm going to get a flag that says this person is not using this do not call list appropriately.
Right.
So we've reached out to maybe 5 or 6 out of all of our customers, not too many. And they were like, oh, I didn't know that. Or they were like, oh, I didn't know my team member was talking that way. So they've actually appreciated that.
I know the law is gray when you're calling expired listings.
It's not. I don't think
gray.
it's gray at all. If you're a realtor calling an expired listing to list an expired listing, you're selling a service. So you can't, it's pretty black and white that you can't call the do not call.
So now what if I want, I'm glad you're bringing this up, because what if I want to do that and I just, is it any reflection on you, or you're just looking out for me?
As a person who provides a dialer, it's also my responsibility to ensure people are doing legal things. So that's why we built the AI flag to tell me, and then I could pass it on to keep both of us safe.
Okay, because in New York, the expireds, because that's how I've been calling expireds since I'm 22 years old. So I've been doing it for quite some time. And I've never had a problem with an expired. No one ever said to me, I'm on the do not call list, because I'm coming from a place of helping them.
So yeah, Keller Williams, they had just settled a $40 million lawsuit. And some of the language that they were using that got them in trouble was, hey, what are your plans with this, listing? I'm a realtor. That's it. Right. Because then they're obviously selling a service.
No, I get that's cut and dry, the law, and I get that. But when you talk to people and you come from a place of, I've never had somebody get upset with me, is all I'm saying.
That's good. Yeah, no, that's good. And if you want to do that on your personal cell phone, you definitely can.
Right, but not with your dialer.
Yeah, especially because.
Okay. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's what I was about to do, like tomorrow.
Yeah, and
they don't care. All the other companies don't care. They make me sign a disclaimer that says these are on the do not call you. This is at your own risk. And I'm like, fine, no problem, because I know we're not badgering people.
Yeah. So the way that you can get caught is also, there's like these things called honeypots. And when you go into the AT&T store, you buy a new phone, if they don't want to give you a number that has a lot of spam traffic, because they know that you wouldn't like that. And you might think, this AT&T number is shit. I'm going to get rid of this and go to Verizon. So what they do with those numbers is they sell all those numbers with a lot of spam traffic to this company called, forget what it's called, like Telephone Science Corporation is what it's called. Okay, that is what it's called. So then what happens is you get this list of numbers to call, expired listings. That list may have one of those honeypot numbers in it. And when you leave a voicemail on that honeypot number, they're going to be like, gotcha. We're on the do not call list. So you just called and said you're a realtor. So now we're coming after you. And what they do is it's called
someone doesn't have to report you.
It's called a traceback. Well, it's a system. It is not even consumers.
It's an automatic fine. Fine.
It's not even consumers, but it's a system. So it's called a traceback. And most of the 39, I think there's 39 telephone companies that cooperate, but they'll trace it all the way back to where the call came from. So that comes through me to you. And so I don't necessarily have to cooperate with that, but it puts the service that we provide at risk, right? We could they could say, well, we don't want any traffic coming from DealMachine anymore. And so then also you could get fined, especially with, you're supposed to say who you are, right? So yeah, it is interesting, but that's often where complaints come from. And then also like Keller Williams got hit because I believe probably class action lawsuit.
It was. I'm aware of it. But it's just, from a reality point of view or from a practical point of view, people don't get upset. They don't get upset. Once in a while, you'll get somebody, I'm on the do not call list. Do not call me again. And that's it. That's the worst that's ever happened to me in 40 years. But I get what you're saying. All right. Okay.
Well, cool. I definitely enjoyed the discussion. I'd love to follow back up with you too if you want to put something on the calendar. I'd love to get on the three of us again next month, see where things are at.
I'm happy to meet with you guys once a week, whatever. I don't care. I mean,
well, we want to
I
give you
need
some
the help.
time we want to give you some time to do some, take some action and check in
Right.
on the results.
Sure. And Ryan, whatever you have for me for Tuesday nights or whatever, I'd love to sit in and be a fly on the wall or whatever. You know,
Yeah, what's your email address? I'll send you an invite.
Use my AOL. I'm having trouble with this. I'm not a real techie kind of guy.
Okay. Yeah, I'll send you an invite.
Cool. Thanks.
All right, guys.
We'll catch up with you later.
Nice talking. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.